Chanel Ford was just 11 years old, but she carried a passion for civil rights that many adults would admire. From a young age, she had learned about the struggles and triumphs of African Americans in history class. Rosa Parks was a name she often heard, how one determined woman had changed the course of American history by refusing to give up her bus seat. As the day approached for her to meet this incredible leader, Chanel felt a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling inside her. On the morning of the event, Chanel woke up feeling like a bundle of energy, her heart racing with every thought of finally meeting Rosa Parks. She imagined herself walking up to her idol, maybe even having a chance to speak with her about bravery, courage, and what it truly meant to stand up for what is right. But as she arrived at the event, where friends and family gathered excitedly around her, her hands began to tremble. The moment she spotted Greta Parks across the room, her soft smile and dignified demeanor, it became real. Chanel couldn't believe that this woman, whose actions had inspired countless people, stood just a few feet away. Seeing Rosa Parks in person was exhilarating yet daunting. Chanel's admiration felt overwhelming. With each nervous heartbeat, she reminded herself how much this moment mattered. This meeting wasn't just a chance to meet a historical figure. It was an opportunity to connect with someone who had made such a significant impact in fighting for equality and justice. The warmth from Rosa's presence reassured Chanel that she wasn't alone in her journey toward understanding her place in the world. The venue for the event was a large, sunlit hall filled with chatter and excitement. The walls were adorned with photographs and artwork celebrating the rich history of the civil rights movement. Banners hung from the ceiling, proudly displaying quotes from leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and, of course, Rosa Parks herself. As Chanel entered, her eyes widened at the sight of so many influential people gathered in one place, a mix of activists, educators, and young students, all eager to honor the legacy of those who had fought for justice. The atmosphere buzzed with energy, laughter mingling with heartfelt conversations about courage and resilience. Adults exchanged stories of their own experiences during the civil rights era, while children like Chanel listened intently, soaking up every word like a sponge. Groups huddled together for photos, capturing moments to remember forever. Chanel felt both small and empowered within this warm sea of hope. Nearby, she spotted well-known figures who had been part of history themselves. Some were veterans of the movement whose eyes sparkled as they recalled courageous moments from their pasts. Others were younger activists ready to carry on the torch. They all seemed to share a common goal: to inspire future generations to continue the fight for equality. As Chanel stood there, she took a deep breath to calm her nerves. The emotions swirling around her made her realize how significant this gathering truly was. It wasn't just an event, it was a celebration of progress and a reminder that everyone has a role in creating a more just world. Chanel felt grateful to be part of something so meaningful as she awaited her turn to meet Rosa Parks. As Chanel stood near the front of the hall, waiting for her moment to meet Rosa Parks, her heart raced like a wild drum. She could feel the excitement in the air, but it was overshadowed by a wave of nerves that made her hands shake. She glanced down, noticing how her fingers trembled uncontrollably, and she clenched them into fists to try to steady herself. Deep down, she knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which only intensified her anxiety. Chanel took a deep breath, reminding herself of all the stories she had heard about Rosa Parks, the bravery it took to stand up for what's right and how one person could spark change. But as she imagined facing such an extraordinary woman, doubt began to creep in. What would she say? Would she be able to express how much Rosa's actions inspired her? Each passing second felt like an eternity, as she envisioned the moment when Rosa would finally stand before her. Around her, the joyful chatter seemed to blur into background noise. Chanel's mind raced with thoughts of wanting to make a good impression. She practiced what she might say in her head. "Thank you for your courage," or "You are my hero." Yet every time she tried to focus on those words, her fingers would betray her with more trembling. Feeling overwhelmed, Chanel closed her eyes for just a moment. She pictured Rosa's warm smile and the strength behind it, something that had influenced so many lives. As she opened her eyes again and looked around at the gathering crowd, Chanel reminded herself that this moment was about connection and learning. No matter how nervous she felt, being in this space was already a step toward becoming the person she aspired to be. In the midst of the bustling event, Mr. Royce Hamilton stood proudly at the back of the hall, watching his students with a sense of fulfillment. As Chanel fidgeted with her trembling hands, he couldn't help but think about the weight of this moment. For him, it was more than just a meeting between a young girl and a legendary figure. It represented a bridge connecting two generations. He had spent years teaching his students about the civil rights movement and its heroes, and now he was witnessing history come to life in front of his eyes. Mr. Hamilton reflected on how important it was for young people like Chanel to meet someone who had made such profound sacrifices for equality. He remembered how his own teachers had inspired him, igniting a fire within him to fight for justice and change. Watching Chanel nervously await her chance to speak with Rosa Parks stirred something deep within him, a reminder that each generation has its role in continuing the mission for civil rights. As an educator, he felt honored to facilitate these moments where history could be shared directly from those who lived it. He understood that every question, every exchange between students and leaders could shape their future actions. Through this encounter, Chanel would not only learn from Rosa Parks but also feel empowered to carry on her legacy. With anticipation building in the air, Mr. Hamilton captured this moment in his mind, knowing it would become a cherished memory for both Chanel and himself. It was an example of how past struggles could inspire future leaders, showing that the fight for justice is never truly over. It's passed down from one generation to the next. As Chanel finally stood in front of Rosa Parks, she felt a wave of warmth wash over her, as if the air around them held a special magic. Rosa, with her graceful demeanor and gentle smile, exuded a calm presence that instantly put Chanel at ease. Despite the countless people who had gathered to meet her, there was a stillness about Rosa that suggested she was fully present in this moment with each individual. Rosa's keen eyes quickly noticed Chanel's trembling hands and the concern etched on her young face. Without saying a word, she reached out and slowly removed her own delicate white gloves. The simple yet powerful gesture spoke volumes. It was as if Rosa wanted to comfort Chanel without overwhelming her with words. Gently placing the gloves in Chanel's hands, she communicated understanding and kindness, a reminder that even heroes can share intimate moments of connection. Chanel felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes as she held the gloves, realizing they symbolized so much more than just fabric. They represented courage, history, and a shared commitment to justice. In that instant, she understood that Rosa Parks was not just an icon from history books but a real person who cared deeply about inspiring and empowering others. While other attendees mingled around them, it felt as though time stood still for these two. Chanel's nerves faded into the background as she locked eyes with Rosa, feeling an unspoken bond grow between them, a quiet promise that the fight for equality would continue through young hearts like hers. This moment reminded Chanel that every step toward justice began with understanding and compassion, which echoed through generations past and present. As Chanel held the white gloves in her hands, she felt an overwhelming sense of symbolism ripple through her. To many, they were merely accessories, but to Chanel, they represented so much more. They were a tangible connection to the legacy of Rosa Parks and the countless sacrifices made during the civil rights movement. Each thread of the fabric seemed to whisper stories of courage, determination, and the unyielding fight for justice. In that quiet moment, it became clear to Chanel that this was not just an exchange of gloves. It was a powerful gesture that transcended generations. Rosa's decision to remove her gloves and offer them to Chanel spoke volumes about her understanding of the importance of mentorship and inspiration. It was as if Rosa was handing down a torch, inviting Chanel to continue the journey toward equality and justice. Chanel's heart swelled with pride and responsibility as she contemplated the significance of what had just happened. She realized that she was now a part of something larger than herself, part of a lineage of activists who had fought bravely against injustice. The gloves were not just a gift, they were a reminder that change is possible when one is willing to stand up for what is right. Around them, the lively atmosphere faded as Chanel focused on the weight of the moment. She felt a deep connection with Rosa, one that was rooted in shared values and aspirations for a better world. This simple act of kindness bridged the gap between their ages, showing that regardless of the years that separated them, the fight for justice was a timeless endeavor. In holding those gloves, Chanel understood that she was not alone in her passion. She was part of a continuing story, empowered to make her own mark on history. The act of Rosa Parks removing her white gloves and placing them in Chanel's hands was rich with symbolism, representing far more than a simple exchange. To many, gloves might seem like an ordinary accessory, but to Chanel, they embodied the essence of courage and the weight of history. The white fabric served as a reminder that Rosa had once faced immense challenges and danger in her fight for justice. By giving those gloves to Chanel, she was passing on a legacy steeped in bravery. Moreover, the gesture highlighted the theme of mentorship, an essential element in the journey for equality. Rosa's willingness to share a piece of herself with Chanel signified an invitation to take up the mantle of activism. It demonstrated that the fight for justice is not confined to one era or generation. It is an ongoing struggle that requires new voices and fresh perspectives. In this way, Rosa was not merely handing over gloves. She was encouraging Chanel to forge her own path while honoring those who had come before her. This meaningful exchange also illustrated the importance of connection across generations. The gloves acted as a bridge linking past heroes with future leaders. Each time Chanel looked at them, she would be reminded of her role in continuing the fight for civil rights and justice. They represented a commitment to compassion, resilience, and understanding, qualities needed for any advocate. In essence, Rosa's gloves were not just fabric, they were a powerful symbol of hope and responsibility. They urged Chanel to embrace her passion for change and inspire others, reminding her that she was part of something much larger than herself, a movement that relied on each individual's courage to effect positive change in society. As Chanel cradled the white gloves in her hands, a rush of emotions flooded her heart. Tears welled in her eyes as the gravity of the moment began to sink in. Holding something that had once belonged to Rosa Parks felt almost surreal. She could hardly believe that this woman, who had shown such incredible bravery, had chosen to pass this sacred object to her. It wasn't just a gift, it was a declaration of trust and encouragement, stirring a deep sense of responsibility within Chanel. In that instant, the weight of civil rights history enveloped her like a warm embrace. The gloves became more than just fabric, they transformed into a living reminder of the sacrifices made by countless individuals who fought against injustice. Chanel thought about all the stories she had learned, the struggles of those who paved the way for equality, and realized how much courage it took to make a difference. This moment ignited a fiery passion within her, compelling Chanel to reflect on her own commitment to activism. She felt inspired to utilize her voice and abilities in ways that could honor Rosa's legacy. No longer merely a student learning about civil rights, she saw herself as part of an ongoing movement, a movement that needed fresh voices and ideas. The exchange also deepened her understanding of mentorship. Chanel grasped the importance of guiding others on their journeys, just as Rosa had guided her. As she wiped away her tears, Chanel understood that accepting those gloves meant embracing her role as an advocate for change. This emotional experience fortified her resolve to fight for justice and equality, knowing she was now part of a long lineage of activists dedicated to making the world a better place for all. As Mr. Royce Hamilton observed the poignant moment between Chanel and Rosa Parks, he couldn't help but reflect on the significance of such encounters in bridging the past and present struggles for equality. In his years of teaching, he had often shared stories of civil rights activists who paved the way for change, and now he was witnessing history unfold before his eyes. The exchange of gloves symbolized not only mentorship but also a continuity of purpose, an echo of the battles fought by those who came before. Mr. Hamilton noted how important it was for young people to understand that the fight for justice did not end with one generation. It was a living legacy passed down through experiences and shared moments like this. Each time Chanel felt the weight of Rosa's gloves in her hands, she would be reminded that she belonged to a line of courageous individuals working toward a common goal. These connections helped shape her understanding of her role in society, and inspired her to carry forth the torch of activism. He watched as Chanel's face transformed with newfound determination, recognizing that her emotions were a reflection of something greater. It was not just about meeting an icon, it was about stepping into a movement that required fresh voices willing to advocate for change. For Mr. Hamilton, this moment underscored the importance of creating spaces where history could be experienced firsthand, allowing students like Chanel to grasp the magnitude of their contributions to the ongoing fight for equality. As he looked around at the gathering crowd, Mr. Hamilton felt a wave of hope wash over him. It reassured him that through these meaningful connections, young activists would continue to rise, uniting past struggles with present actions and ensuring that the pursuit of justice remained alive and well in their hearts. After the unforgettable encounter with Rosa Parks, Chanel felt a renewed sense of purpose blossoming within her. As she carefully tucked the white gloves into her bag, they became a symbol of her commitment to social justice and activism. This experience ignited a fire in her heart, inspiring her to take action in her own community. Chanel began to envision ways she could contribute, thinking about organizing events at her school to raise awareness about civil rights issues. She wanted to engage her classmates in meaningful discussions about justice, equality, and the importance of standing up for what is right. The weight of Rosa's legacy pushed her to consider how she could be a voice for change among her peers. Feeling empowered, Chanel started researching local organizations dedicated to civil rights and community service. She discovered groups focused on advocating for underrepresented voices and promoting equal opportunities for all. Excited by the prospect of joining these efforts, she reached out to volunteer, eager to learn from experienced activists, and immerse herself in hands-on projects that made a difference. With each step she took toward activism, Chanel felt more confident in her ability to create change. The inspiration she drew from Rosa Parks transformed into a determination that would guide her actions moving forward. She knew that even as an 11-year-old, her voice mattered, and it was important to use it wisely. Reflecting on that pivotal day, Chanel understood that the gloves represented more than just the past. They were a call to action for the future. She embraced this challenge wholeheartedly, ready to follow in the footsteps of those who had fought before her and contribute her unique perspective to the ongoing struggle for equality and justice. The encounter between Chanel Ford and Rosa Parks serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of passing down stories and lessons from one generation to the next. Each moment shared between activists, like the exchange of Rosa's gloves, encapsulates the struggles, triumphs, and values that shape our understanding of justice and equality. These connections help ensure that history is not only remembered but also learned from, providing young people like Chanel with a sense of purpose and direction. As Chanel embarks on her journey in activism, she carries with her the weight of those who fought before her. The white gloves symbolize more than just a physical object. They embody the courage needed to challenge injustice and the mentorship necessary for inspiring future generations. Through her efforts to engage her peers in discussions about civil rights, Chanel will contribute to this ongoing narrative, connecting past lessons to present actions. Mr. Hamilton's reflections highlight the crucial role educators play in fostering these connections. By creating spaces where students can meet figures like Rosa Parks or learn about their stories, teachers inspire young minds to take up the mantle of advocacy. It is through these moments that history comes alive, encouraging students to see themselves as part of a larger movement for change. Ultimately, passing down stories and experiences cultivates a legacy of empowerment. As Chanel steps forward into her role as an advocate for justice, she understands that she is not alone. She is part of a long continuum striving for equality. This shared journey reinforces the idea that each generation has both the privilege and responsibility to carry forward the fight for justice, ensuring that future leaders are equipped with the wisdom and inspiration needed to create a better world for all.